We are honored to welcome Shri Ashish Aggarwal as the Vice President and Head of Public Policy at NASSCOM. Shri Ashish has been instrumental in shaping policies for the tech industries, focusing on innovations, ease of business doing, and regulatory framework. Shri Ashish ji insights today promise to be a both enlightening and inspiring on data governance for unlocking innovations.
Thank you, and very happy to be here in this workshop. I know a lot of the audience is from the government, so it's a good opportunity for somebody from industry to be sharing his thoughts. And we covered a lot of ground since morning, so I'll try and say something which probably didn't get covered, and try to think about three things today. One, what is so unique in 2024 when we are talking about data for governance? Second, how can we break down this governance into actionable words, because sometimes it feels like jargon. What does it really mean? And third is that how do we make it happen, which I think we touched upon in the previous session in terms of incentives. So if you recall, some of you would recall, I'm assuming, in 2011, there was a draft electronic service delivery bill, which really was one of the things that was trying to do is to mandate e-governance. And for some reason, it fell through, it didn't happen. And one of the reasons, presumably on research, we find is that it was a bit too early for its time. So I think sitting in 24 strongly feel that that stage has passed. Over the years, a lot has happened. In fact, there are about 10 states who have encoded e-governance in their laws. But still, the words are encouraging rather than mandating. It is still focusing on the front end of digital governance, not at the back end. And the difference being in the back end, you talk about data quality, you talk about interoperability, you talk about APIs, and front end is just the actual delivery of the services. So I think a lot has changed. Today, across governments, both center and state at various tiers, over 4,000 services are delivered digitally. The volume of digital transactions in this delivery of digital services have grown 43 times between 2013 and 2011. So there is a lot to celebrate, and the reason why I'm saying this is that each part of data-led governance needs to be celebrated. The ecosystem around open data usage needs to be celebrated, because that would be one incentive for this to really grow and take forward. Then I think in industry, we use this term total enterprise transformation. This is nothing but digital transformation. And basically what is happening is that for a lot of the world globally in terms of enterprises, we are looking at entities transforming digitally, so that one big reason is just to be able to harness the power of data much more natively rather than just trying to do it incrementally. And I think that same holds good in a way, from a government perspective also. And maybe we can talk about a few of those examples. But again, I think just to reflect from the last decade, earlier, the entire usage for data for governance was probably centered around transparency. And now I think we can say that safely that it has so much more role in the overall growth. We talk about Aadhaar data. I think there is a lot that can happen just from this authentication information about government services. So for example, we know that DOT recently has asked telcos to do re-KYC for a lot of their customers and strengthen that. And for example, we don't have data, gender-based data on telecom users, female use of data and men. So it's very simple, and it can probably give in some insights. Usage of medical facilities, infrastructure, hospitals, just authentication data can probably get us a sense of where there is more usage and where there is some sort of a gap, and so on and so forth. So there are many, many such examples. I am also conscious a little bit in terms of time, but I do want to highlight some good case studies. In Telangana, there is a project, Sagu Babu. Sagu Babu literally means agricultural advancement. And I think it's a good example where startups and government are collaborating to say that how how can the benefit of soil data be translated into incomes for the farmer. And even with the recent data, what we are finding is that farmers have seen their incomes increase by more than rupees 66,000 per acre per crop cycle, effectively doubling their income. So, and initially there was some skepticism about, whether this kind of a effort or data would be useful. Another thing when we think about data, I think we need to think about is how we think about IP ownership, at least in government data. For example, in 2016, the government stopped publishing import-export data sets, which till then had been invaluable for small businesses. And I'm sure there is merit in that, but probably also a view to look at it a little more holistically. A very good example of an outcome is for Bureau of Indian Standards to release the standards for free, Indian standards for free, and make that available. But that happened as late as 2021, after a decade of effort. So again, a good outcome, and that's something very interesting. So now, just to break down in terms of this data governance, I think the key element of data governance in our mind is that how it can be used as a tool for strategic planning, and then generate learnings and evidence. And then I think we get into this institutional capacity and the processes and rules and laws and so on and so forth. The data governance framework, which is at the draft stage, I think is a good start. It will be good to see how that can actually fructify in the coming months. And which can, in a way, you can link to this, the incentive point that was made, that it will probably be both a carrot and stick in terms of saying that how it can actually happen, and those right incentives are, I think, the toughest part of making this happen. Some of the stuff, I think it is again something easy fix. So for example, we know that MeitY and IC, you have a open government data platform. But we also know that Niti Aayog has a national data analytics platform. Now, standing outside as industry, sometimes it could be a little confusing, but I don't know whether within government also it can create certain gaps in terms of saying this. MeitY also has an excellent open API policy. So I think that's a very good thing which will, in terms of adoption, can really take these things forward. Lastly, I think on the enough has been said about privacy and all of that, but I think we should remind ourselves data is government data, non-government data, personal data, and non-personal. And when we start thinking about that, I think there is so much of opportunity, and one of the tools there is de-identification of data. And I think there again, a lot of hand-holding will be required, even from an industry point of view, for the MSMEs particularly, because when you think of entire supply chains, it can be quite complex to kind of do that, and that directly links back to the incentives. And similarly, I think it must be for intergovernment sharing also. We talked about the IP bit in terms of thinking about policy. Also, we need to think of how do we treat scraping of data from web. So we know that, for example, the GST website says that scraping of website data is an offense under the IT Act. Now, there would be genuine reasons for this, but then how can we make sure that there can be also recognition of use cases of scraping, which can actually result in great outcomes from a society point of view. So I think there are some of these things which are happening. We are seeing that last bit from my side is that a lot of time the use of data cannot be articulated very well in advance. Only once we have the data, once we as industry, we have kind of experimented with it, piloted it out, we discover what can be done with that data. And I think in some sense, when you think of PPP model, how do we collaborate effectively so that our procurement and tendering processes recognize that aspect, and I think that's an interesting thing. And again, we are seeing very good progress. Defense is a good sector where it is happening. There is also a new scheme which is coming up, Innovation in Defense Excellence, that is worth examining. But I think there is so much of opportunity and so much to look forward to. And given the fact that data analytics and AI is all here, we have so much of opportunity to do now in 2024 and onwards, which probably was too early for its time if we look back a decade. And I'm hoping that we can together take this opportunity forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.